Hello, beauties. Saskia, devotional goddess here. I want to share a story with you about how I tuned into my emotions and was true and honest with my emotions. And in doing so, it liberated me. Because I saw where my patterns lay. And in doing so, I could transmute it and raise it up to a higher energetic frequency within me. While I was going through my cancer treatment, the father of my children took me to court. It was nasty. It was underhanded at times. And ultimately, it went in my favor. After that, he requested mediation because the court did not go the way he had hoped it would. And what was interesting was from the beginning, he had said, I'm going to let the courts decide because you won't listen to me. And I'm like, And yet the courts did decide, and he still wasn't following through in his words. I was acknowledging that our relationship, we still have 10 more years plus 10 years to work together. So I was like, I will consider mediation because we're having a really hard time in communicating and we need to be able to parent together in some shape or form. So we went and spoke with a mediator. The mediator said, you two are in such crisis. In order to mediate with you, I'm going to also need a couples counselor with me in mediation to help you two navigate together. I was like, okay, what is the cost of that? Can we do per session? No, cannot do per session. You're going to need to commit and put a deposit down for $5,000 each. Because the therapist required $5,000 and the divorce mediator also required $5,000 as a retainer. I had already put out a significant amount of money after being brought to court already, and I'd already been through the whole process. And I was very conscious of the fact that he was looking for another outcome again to put me in my place in his perspective. And I was still healing from the trauma of the cancer treatment. My body was still recovering. It still was weak. I'd lost a significant amount of weight. And I hadn't worked. I didn't have the resources. And I was in a very difficult place. I remember very vividly, I was walking to pick my daughters up from school. And I was strategizing in my brain, how on earth am I going to come up with $5,000? Do I loan it? Do I ask close friends who I knew had the means to lend it out? I just was trying to play out so many scenarios in my head. And as I was walking, it hit me. It's like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm being persecuted. Continually being attacked and attacked and attacked. And it was relentless. And the moment I saw that, the moment I allowed myself to be still with the rawness of the pain and the suffering that I felt I was in, the energy of persecution became clear to me. And in that same split second, the recognition of, I am not a victim. So I needed to see the persecution energy that I was feeling in order to flip it on its head and say, no, I am not a victim. I am able to be in control of the situation and be in a place of power within me, rather than a place of victimhood. And in that moment, I was able to transmute it. Stand strong in my own core, in my own being, and say, enough. I am not doing this. I am not going to entertain this circus with you. Enough. He had the 5,000 available to him. He had already paid his deposit because he knew he had it, but he also knew I didn't, and it would put me in significant debt, in more stress and strain, in a greater sense of fight and flight, which continued to have the possibility of having me spiral and become weaker and weaker from the state I was already in. And I needed to turn it around. I needed to stop and say, the buck stops here. We're not doing this anymore. And it stopped. The lawyer was vocal and said, you're not going to get yourself out of this unless you use us. The mediator, the counselor said nothing, which I was very appreciative of. And it was a very important defining moment for me, because I knew in me transmuting my energy and turning around the situation was what it needed. This man was like a child having a tantrum. I haven't gotten my way. I'm going to have a tantrum until I get my way. And I needed to be the mother, the divine mother, to say, no. I'm holding the line. This is unacceptable behavior. And it is going to end here. I didn't need to say those words, but I embodied and held the energy of it. And from that time, things began to change. It wasn't easy, but things began to change because I stayed in my divine feminine. I stayed in my goddess blueprint. I wasn't about to play in the mud with him and continue to throw mud at him. I changed the paradigm and I said, I'm not behaving in this way. I'm not lowering to this energy and this behavior. I'm choosing another way. I'm choosing the higher ground for the best for our children and the best for me. And in doing so, I transmuted the energy. Later, a friend of a friend, I bumped into her in a store and we chatted for a bit. And she made reference to her husband's ex-wife. And she used the words parallel parenting. She said, we're not able to co-parent. We parallel parent because we're not able to have dialogue that is constructive with the ex-wife. That was so empowering for me to hear. And it again gave me another layer of revelation and empowerment of, goodness, that's what I've been doing, is parallel parenting. Now it has fluctuated back and forth. Right now we are co-parenting and we're able to do it. But just like with any relationship, there are ebbs and flows. of contentment, of unity, and then there are times where the relationship hits its rocky ground. Hopefully, in a marriage, there is that connection of devotion, reverence, and love that keeps you together, that allows you to maintain a bond and rise up for the highest and best for all. But not all relationships and not all marriages are able to hold that. And I have experienced over and over again in my parallel parenting and my co-parenting that often, and other relationships too, within my family, within my friends, it often takes one person to rise above and show another way for it to change. And in the case of my marriage, it did mean the marriage dissolved because he wasn't able to rise up with me in the direction that I wanted to go into, in the integrity that I wanted to hold for myself. And that's okay. It was my journey. And fortunately, it wasn't for me to have it with him for a lifetime or for 10 years or 5 years. It was for a shorter period because part of our contract was to bring these two divine beings into the world. And I was very cognizant of that when we divorced all those years ago. So honor your emotion. It has wisdom. It will give you clarity to create liberation and allow you to have sight to move forwards and make a choice. Am I in a victim mode, or can I empower myself, and what does my power look like? These are very important lessons and opportunities that we have when we're in difficult times and when we are in crossroads, to create change and to bring about change. First and foremost within ourselves, and knowing that that inner change can bring about a powerful ripple effect in our lives. And know that every moment, no matter how difficult it is, honor your emotions. Allow them to be transmuted so that you can liberate yourself and make another choice from that moment onwards. Much love and many blessings. I hope this was helpful. All my information is below if you'd like to know more about who I am and what I offer. Much love. Bye-bye.